I'd like to talk about distance, rate, and time word problems in this video. So if we're given a word problem where we're trying to find the distance traveled, the speed we got there, or the time it took us to get there, we're often going to end up using a particular formula, and this is d equals r times t. Okay, and here, distance is our d value, so d equals distance. R is equal to our rate or speed, and t is equal to our time. Okay, so we often see distance measured in kilometers, miles, feet, inches, etc. Right? Some unit of measurement for how long something is. Okay? And we oftentimes see rate measured in miles per hour, mph, kilometers per hour. Sometimes we see meters per second, which might be mps, or feet per second, fps. These are oftentimes abbreviated. Okay, so usually it's a unit of distance by a certain amount of time. Okay, and then lastly we have time. This is usually seconds, minutes, hours, so on, some amount of time measured. Okay, so given this, let's see if we can solve a few real-world problems. This first one says, Raphael went for a drive in his new car. He drove at a speed of 53 miles per hour for 339.2 miles. How many hours did he drive? Okay, so when we're dealing with one of these problems, especially in this class, in this context, you're often going to be given two pieces of information and you're going to be missing one. All right, so first we need to figure out what information we have. All right, so he was traveling at a speed of 53 miles per hour. So speed indicates that we probably have our rate, okay? So our rate, in this case, is 53 miles per hour, okay? And we also have that he went for a total of 339.2 miles. So our distance is 339.2 miles. Okay, so let's take a look at our formula. D equals RT. So we have distance and we have rate and we need to find T. So let's go ahead and solve this for T. So here we can divide both sides by R. That's going to cancel the R's here. And that's going to give us that T is equal to D over R. Okay, so in this case, we have T is equal to our distance, which is 339.2, divided by our rate, which is 53. Okay, so let's use a calculator for this one, because I'll admit that I can't do this one in my head. 339.2 divided by 53 is going to give us 6.4. So he drove for a total of 6.4 hours. Okay. And I will say this too. This is a good time to mention this. Usually when you get the answers for these, it's a good time to do what I like to call a sanity check. Okay. So right here, if you say we're going to drive, around 300 miles, if you had to just take a wild guess how long you think that would take you, I would probably guess 5 to 7 hours or something like that, right? That's you're going to measure that usually in a single digit number of hours, okay? So if you get an answer back like 400, that's probably not a good that's probably a good indication you should go back and double check your work. If you get 4,000, for example, that might be even a bigger reason to go back and double check. It's also not going to take you 5 minutes or less than an hour to travel that distance. So that might be a good indication to go back and again, double check your work. Okay, so you usually with these want to make sure that your final answer actually makes sense with the problem being asked. Okay, I find that to be one of the more common mistakes is the answer might be, you might have set it up properly, but you did the math wrong, and you end up with an answer that doesn't quite make sense with the problem being asked. So that's one good way to check your work here. Okay, this next one says we have a construction crew built a road at a rate of 3.84 kilometers per week. They worked for 3 weeks. How many kilometers of road did they build? Okay, so we see here that they built a road at a rate of 3.84 kilometers per week. Okay, so that means that our rate is 3.84, and it says that they worked for 3 weeks. That means that the time is 3. And we're looking for how many kilometers of road did they build. Okay, so let's look at our formula here. D equals RT. So we're looking for distance. We have rate and we have time. And hey, our formula is already set up in D equals RT. So we can actually just leave it as is and plug in everything. So we have D is equal to, in this case, our rate is 3.84. And we're going to multiply this by our time of 3 weeks. And 3.84 times 3 is going to give us 11.52. So they built 11.52 kilometers. Okay, let's look at one more. It says Christine went for a drive. She drove 437.5 miles in 7 hours. What was her speed? Okay, so we're asking what was the speed. So we know we're looking for our rate, but we're given here that she drove 437.5 miles. So our distance, our D, is equal to 437.5. And she drove it in 7 hours. So that means our time is 7. So we're going to find our answer in miles per hour then. All right. So that means we have D equals RT. We're looking for her rate. So here we can just divide both sides by T. So the T's will cancel here, and R is going to be equal to D over T. Or in this case, we're going to have 437.5 over 7. So let's go ahead and calculate that. And I come up with 62.5. So her speed is 62.5 miles per hour.